Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities space. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer: nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of West Red Lake Gold Mines, a company focused on advancing and developing its flagship Madsen Gold Mine and the associated highly prospective land package in the Red Lake District of Ontario. It's Shane Williams. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Great to be on again.
Yeah, and I want to start with a broad overview of the gold sector here, as I often like to do. I'd like to get your thoughts on the main themes and trends that you're currently watching when it comes to the gold market that you think investors should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, let's step back a little bit. As you remember, during the COVID times, there was huge amount of money printing, as it was known, over the last number of years, and that has kind of worked its way through the economy. And, we are seeing extreme inflation in the last number of years. And, the CPIs has been pretty elevated. However, as you know, Jesse, as you spend on a day-to-day basis, it's much higher sort of spending you're seeing in the day-to-day spending. And so as that goes forward, we are seeing the value of the overall currencies beginning to diminish. And so people are taking that on board, and it's taken a bit of time to get through the systems. And so we are seeing recently that effect on, a lot of the central banks have also started to buy gold in records amount in the last number of years. And recently we've seen it more in the gold price itself, as we've seen some elevated moves in gold. As some of the other trends keep moving, we've seen some elevated gold. And so that signals to me that there is a more trend towards hard assets. There is a bit of concern with the global economy. There is a bit of concern on, the inflation going forward. And more so, you're seeing also another trend we're seeing is you're also seeing China beginning to dominate the gold market. And they are buying a lot of gold. And that's also, and so there's a lot of wins catching in the sales of gold, and we are seeing those trends getting more as we go forward. And we've also, another trend I've also seen is there isn't even really a lot of institutional money in gold at the moment. And once that starts to move, we have a record stock market. We have well overvalued in a sort of a PE ratio. And as I think that begins to come off, there is talks of a recession later the next year in the US. And as we start to do that, we will see that institutional money come in. And I believe once we start to see that on top of all the other ones, we will see much higher elevated gold prices as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be a major catalyst for the sector. And you're right. Most institutions, most financial planners, financial managers allocate zero to the gold space. So I think once we start seeing the institutional side come in, we could definitely see a second leg up in the bull market. Last time you were on the show, we discussed the potential for a gold back BRICS currency. Now, it was more of a speculation at that time. Nothing was official. Now, Putin has announced that BRICS is working on an alternate payment system outside of the dollar to evade sanctions. What are your thoughts on this announcement? Do you think that gold could ultimately be involved in that payment system?
Yeah, as you said, things are moving fast in that area. The last time we were on, there was a lot of speculation. I think every day we're seeing announcements between a lot of the BRIC countries on moving one step closer to that sort of a BRIC currency. And then recently we've had a lot of announcements like Putin, like those areas moving closer. I do see um, those currencies will need something to back them up. Each of the currencies themselves are, new to the arena. Each of those countries themselves, I don't trust each other in some sense. So they will need a form of, a backup sort of a common structure with each one of them to trade against their own currencies. And I do see gold as some form of that. How much of a form we've yet to see. But there is a reason I believe that all these central banks, if they of these BRIC currencies, are buying gold in record amounts. And in some form, I do see gold as being a base around this sort of a BRIC currency for sure. How long it will take, I'm not really sure. And it will be in the future at some stage. And we have the dollarization ongoing. So these are trends again that are all working in favor of gold and against the US dollar as we move forward.
So, another major blow to the US dollar recently is that Saudi Arabia has now gone off the petrodollar system after 80 years. Here's a quote from the Business Standard. The crucial decision to not renew the contract enables Saudi Arabia to sell oil and other goods in multiple currencies, including the Chinese renminbi, euros, and yen, instead of exclusively in US dollars. So, firstly, how significant is this development to the de dollarization story? And do you see gold potentially being used to transact for oil up ahead?
Yeah, look, I do see it very significant, Jesse, as part of the overall trend towards de-dollarization. There has been lots of talk, and it's ongoing at the moment, where there's been trade in individual currencies for gold, etc., between different countries. And so this is a significant, once more and more countries begin to get confident in this system and begin to start using that, I do see a lot more trends as you move forward on that sort of area. And again, gold will need to be some form of that, because it's a physical backed of these currencies. So yes, that is a significant development I see going forward.
And the US debt has now surpassed $34.5 trillion. This is a number so staggering, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. We keep hearing how the debt is unsustainable and everything's going to collapse at any moment. And yet, here we are, more zeros keep getting added. At what point does this truly cause some sort of collapse? And can gold act as an insurance policy against all this government mismanagement?
Yeah, look, I do see that, there is, at the moment, there's still a bit of confidence in the US and the sort of debt and sort of there. But, the projections of the government itself, as you look at the projections going forward into the future on the amount of debt as a percentage of GDP, etc., it is staggering. And I do believe over time, people will see that more and more, particularly if we have another recession or another downturn in the US economy. I do expect the Fed to step in again and drop interest rates and provide some support again. And, that's happened a couple of times. And as we do that more and more, everybody begins to lose that confidence. And, once we start to lose confidence in the currency, that's where it begins to unravel very quickly, Jesse. And most people, I would encourage most people to take care of their own hard dollars, and gold is an excellent sort of counter to that sort of currency debasement over the future. And it's the physical, physical gold is always a base to have as you go forward and protect yourself in these times.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there. I had David Rosenberg on the show recently, and he pointed out a few things about the gold market that he said had fundamentally changed. One, he said that gold was no longer following along with commodities. Commodities could be down and gold could be up, which did not used to be the case before. And also that gold has broken out of its inverse correlation with the US dollar. So, in other words, both the US dollar and gold could be going up at the same time, which is generally historically not always the case. He says that the market has now stopped viewing gold as a commodity and is viewing it as money with no counterparty risk. Do you agree with that view? And what are you seeing when it comes to gold's price action as it reached all-time highs?
Yeah, no, I do. I do see that risk. And it's been quite recent. If you step back a number of years, as you remember, during the COVID times when the central bank began to start increasing rates, we did have a dip in gold, and we had that counter effect of gold and, interest rates. And in the last probably 5 6 months, as others have begun to get in there, we are seeing that pivot where they are both rising together in effect, and they're not being affected in source. And it's also got to do with real rates and interest rates as well, with inflation. And so, them normally work counter-cyclical, but in the last number of months, we've seen them all working together. And so I do believe, like David said, that we are seeing it as a hard asset, as a currency, a form of currency, effectively, a form of currency going forward. And, that has a lot of implications. The dollar value is at an all-time high in relative to other currencies. And if you look at the price of gold in yen, or in Chinese renminbi, or in the British pound, etc., the euro, they're at all-time high. And it's not yet an all-time high in US dollars. So as that begins to come off, and the value of that, I do see much higher gold prices going forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the other currencies. I mean, if you look at the yen completely getting devastated, it's very interesting because I convinced my wife's mother to buy some physical gold. That She's Japanese, living in Japan, maybe 6 months back, and trying to explain to her this will protect your purchasing power, and it has absolutely done that. I think that's a very interesting case study. Same with several other countries around the world. Let's shift over to discussing West Red Lake gold mines here and start with some exciting news, which is that you poured your first gold bar at the Madsen Mill. Walk us through that process and what it means for the company.
Yeah, when we bought the asset, really, we bought the asset back only a year ago. And so one of the things that we did see was there was an opportunity to do what they call a mill cleanup. Is basically that's kind of clean up all the mill and take all the existing gold that's there in the system out of the system and pour a gold bar. So we started that about 6 months ago, and we've worked very diligently on that. And so it's a cleanup process out of the mills, the old tanks, etc. And we've used that process to actually pour a gold bar. And that happened only a week ago. Basically, I was on site. We ended up doing that. And that's free money effectively, as you know, as we go forward. So we've used that to buffer our balance sheet as we go forward. So that's been a good opportunity that the team identified, and sort of a focus of our team as we a very technical team. We focus on these opportunities as we move forward on the project.
Great. Well, you also have some drill results recently announced from the Madsen Mine. Fill us in, walk us through the details on that.
Yeah, one of the things we've seen with the Madsen mine is the previous operators did had a focus in one area of the mine, and we've started to broaden that out and drill in other areas of the mine. And some two areas that we've really focused in on is the North Austin and the South Austin, where the majority of that drilling has been in the last 6 months. And we've tapped into some really exciting drill results. And those recent results we've had have been very, very high grade over good mineable widths. A lot of people in Red Lake are used to the high grades, but it's tend to be small widths. But we're getting high grade hits plus mineable widths, which is very exciting as we grow. And these are all new areas for the mine and new opportunities to grow the mine and increase production rate as we go forward.
Fantastic. Well, you have a plan in place for the Madsen mine for 2024. This includes key infrastructure and development projects, underground drilling. Fill us in on those plans and how you plan to execute them.
Yeah, we have a very aggressive schedule over the next 12 months. As we've talked about gold is rising over the next number of years. And you're in a perfect opportunity if you're a gold mining company or a developer building towards production in that rising gold environment. You get a lot of leverage to that gold price. As you said, some people like the bullion and it's protecting and wealth protection. But if you want the leverage, really what you've got to do is play in the developers as they're moving towards production. So you get the opportunity to get quickly into production in a rising gold environment. It provides a lot of leverage to the company and the investors. So we have a because we bought a project, an asset that had all its permits in place, that has all its infrastructure, has all its mill construction, tailings, everything that you kind of de-risk on a project. We have that ability to move quickly into production. So we're drilling over the next 12 months, and we have some capital equipment to buy, and hopefully all going well and the project moving forward by the middle to the end of next year, we'll be back in production. So that gives you a lot of leverage. If gold is rising in parallel in that time, there's a lot of opportunity to grow the value of the company.
Absolutely. Talk to us about the Madsen mine and the jurisdiction in general from a historical perspective, because you're not the first one to be developing a gold project there. So talk about what the last owners did in the past, how you're improving on that, and any other details you could shed on the historical angle.
Yeah, yeah. Look, Red Lake in Canada is a very prolific mining area. The Red Lake region has been mined over 100 years now. It's produced over 40 million ounces of gold in that region, and that very high grade gold. The average grade is over 16 grams. So it's known for a lot of gold and very high grade gold. And there's a lot of miners in the region operating mines both historically and current. So we saw that as an opportunity. In Canada, there's been a lot of other areas, has been very focused over the last number of years. The Golden Triangle is one that's mentioned quite a lot in BC, other areas. But we saw the opportunity in the Red Lake region. Some of your listeners might be familiar with a company called Great Bear Resources, who was also in the Red Lake region, who were very successful and were taken over by Kinross Gold. Evolution Mining, who bought the original Gold Corp, are operating in that region. So, it has the majors are very interested in that area because of the high grade nature of the gold and the history of mining there. It's a very good area to mine. And on a global macro sense, Canada offers the stability, political stability in the region, and has opportunities to grow, and it's a good regulatory environment. So we like Canada very much, focus on Canada, and the Red Lake region is a good region to be in to build a gold mining company.
And could you shed some light as well, specifically on the history of the Madsen mine, and what you're maybe doing differently than what was done before?
Yeah, the previous operator actually built and operated this mine. This mine was built over the last number of years, and they spent over $350 million on this asset. They got all the permits, they did everything right. They moved into production, and unfortunately, there was some challenges there. They took on a lot of debt for the project to get the project built. They also experienced COVID. COVID hit them in a ramp up phase. And as you know, Jesse, that affected a lot of mining around the world and a lot of people, a lot of opportunities with people, getting people, supply chains, etc. They also had some technical difficulties. This previous team didn't really have mine building experience or operating. So, we looked at all that. We went and did our due diligence. I saw some key issues that caused the problems. We put together a very technical team that's focused on operation, building, operating mines. And so with that focus, we identified a number of areas that we needed to do to de-risk this project before we move forward. So some of them particularly are doing a lot more of underground drilling, which we've laid out in our plan, we've talked about, and we're doing another pre-feasibility study. So, once they're in place from a technical de-risk, that gives us the opportunity to move forward with a much more robust and technically advanced plan into production.
Great. So you're moving into production. Uh, is the end goal to just continue on yourselves? Is there any thought towards being acquired by a larger company in the future? How do you think about that question?
Yeah, the focus of West Red Lake really is to move forward and I put the mine into operation. That's been the focus. That's been the board we've built. We've some very experienced people on the board. We've a backers as in Frank Justra, who has a very big reputation in the resource industry. He's built some very, very large companies gold mining companies over the last 20 years. So the focus really has been, and my background is in operations and development, and our team we've put together. So our real focus is about putting Madsen back into production and using that as a base to grow the company over the next number of years. That's really been our focus. Actually, some of the downfalls of the previous operator was that they wanted to get into production and hope to get bought by another operator at the time. And, then when that didn't happen, they were left to build a mine. So to be successful, you need to focus on building and operating the mine. Down the road, what happens through M&A and if another company comes in, but at least you need to prove that you're successful and you can build a mine. And it also adds value to the operation if you know you can operate it and grow the company.
Well, is there anything we haven't covered on West Red Lake Gold Mines that you think it's important for investors to be aware of?
Yeah, I think so. One of the keys of mining, junior mining, as you probably know, is the team, the quality of the team, and you need to have a team who've done it before and have the experience to build and operate mines and build companies. And we've put together a very strong board. And Tony McCool, people can go on our website and look at our corporate presentation. But we're backed by Frank Justra, who's built numerous gold mining companies over the last 20 years and successfully. These are projects that started very small, like West Red Lake, and over the next a number of years grew into major producers. So we have a good backer. We have a board. On our board, we have people like Tony McCooch, who built a company called Kirkland Lake. Again, big company, lots of operations, started small again. And we've Duncan Milmas, who built a company called Westone Mining. So, these are pedigree people, and we've put together our own team. So that's very important for investors to understand a team that's done it before and has been successful. So I think that's a key distinction of West Red Lake compared to other companies as we move forward. We have a team that's done it, so people can have the confidence that we can do it again.
Great. Well, Shane, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm going to put links to West Red Lake Gold Mine's website as well as social media for people who want to learn more, and really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Excellent, Jesse. It's been great to be on. Thank you.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.